Now it's 6. The strength of winds across the region has slowed compared to yesterday, but that bitter cold still remains.
Yeah, another punch of cold air could be on the way to South Central as we head toward midweek. Chief Meteorologist Melissa Fry joins us now.
Melissa, how low are those temperatures going to go?
They are going coldest we've seen so far this season. And again, typically we don't really see that more extreme cold weather set in for a long duration until we get into January and February. So even a little unusual for the month of December. Here's a look at those current conditions outside. Not too cold. 18 in Anchorage, only 28 below in Fairbanks, 13 in Palmer, and still above freezing in Ketchikan for now. But now that the sun has set and those winds are calming, these temperatures are going to begin to drop very quickly. Across Anchorage Bowl, even deceptive from one side of town to the other. We have more than a 20-degree drop, 3 below. Right now, the Camel Creek Science Center just 2 out on Muldoon and on the Anchorage Hillside and into the interior. Again, a wide variety of conditions. 15 below along the Seas Highway, 24 below there at University Avenue. And then you can see as you move south out near Badger Road, 28 below currently in those temperatures. They are dropping as we speak. Now, it is warmer in the interior and on the slope right now compared to yesterday. That's just because that little front moved through, brought in some cloud cover, brought in that light snow. That did allow temperatures to warm. But again, it was a temporary warming. And now that that is moving east, those temperatures will once again drop quickly. Now, it feels even colder than it is along the Dalton Highway in the slope because that is one area we're still seeing those strong winds. Also into the Alaska Peninsula. High wind warning in effect there for continued, again, strong winds. Otherwise, we will continue to see those temperatures dropping in the Anchorage Bowl back into those lower single digits overnight tonight. High temperatures only reaching about 11 for your Wednesday in Anchorage. Fairbanks, high temperature at 25 below, 18 in Juneau, and only reaching those single digits tomorrow in Bethel. Again, temperatures still dropping further as we get closer to the weekend, and I'll have that forecast next.
Melissa, thanks so much. Tonight at 6, questions still remain after the discovery of a man's body in Wasilla after his home burned to the ground.
The remains were found just a day after he appeared in court for child sex abuse material-related charges.
The death and those accusations have some people feeling uneasy. Our Georgina Fernandez went to the neighborhood to learn more.
Smoke from Saturday's fire has cleared, but there's still this cloud of lingering questions for neighbors. As they tell us today, they are shocked, but also you never know your neighbor. This is all that is left of 46-year-old Ryan McDonough's home. The Wasilla cardiologist, who was facing numerous counts of possessing child sex abuse material, was found dead inside his home after his house burned down on Saturday. According to the Department of Public Safety, he was the only person inside the house at the time of the fire. We tried talking to McDonough's neighbors on Tuesday. The few that answered didn't want to be on camera. But off camera, one neighbor told us McDonough's family was wholesome, and there's a feeling of disbelief. Another neighbor tells us they consider their neighborhood to be good. The news about potential child sex abuse material circling the community is upsetting to other Wasilla residents.
Angry.
Why angry?
It just seems so predominant in our world today. So many of them. I don't think we have even scratched the surface. I'm sure we all know one somewhere.
According to Safe House, in Alaska alone, as of 2024, there were 3,477 registered sex offenders. McDonough was never convicted of any of his charges. Now we're still waiting to learn the official cause of McDonough's death. Georgina Fernandez, Alaska's news source.
New tonight, the U.S. Senate has passed a 5-year extension for the Alaska Native Vietnam-era Veterans Land Allotment Program.
That decision comes just days before the application period for that program was set to expire. It now heads to the president's desk for a signature. Today, Alaska Senator Dan Sullivan called the decision a, quote, Christmas gift for some great American heroes. And Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski also praised the extension, saying in part, quote, we hoped thousands of eligible individuals and heirs would finally receive the land they're owed.
And with lawmakers continuing debate over Alaska's liquefied natural gas pipeline, a divide is forming on whether new laws are needed to make that pipeline really happen.
We've got our political reporter, Will Courtney, standing by, and he tells us while some say existing laws are enough, the state's energy consultant says new bills are essential. Will.
Yeah, John, Augusta, Gaffney Klein is the state's energy consultant, and they made this document public yesterday. 63 pages long, 62 pages, and says that in order for this long-awaited pipeline to come about, legislation needs to be in place, which will not happen until the economics are fleshed out. Lawmakers learned last month that legislation would likely be needed for the pipeline. Now, this document narrows down what lawmakers need for the bill to be written, a detailed economic model of the project. This all comes after the pipeline finished its final federal permits last week, what Governor Dunleavy has called, quote, the last major regulatory hurdle. Additionally, a partially legally binding deal was signed with a South Korean company in Washington, D.C. weeks ago. But here in the state, lawmakers are saying they're cautiously optimistic for the project's future, given adequate legislation.
Our future just really cannot be decided by press releases or like big ceremonies in Washington, D.C. or anywhere else in the world, okay? We are, like I said in my commentary, you know, it will be decided here by Alaskans through thoughtful legislative deliberation.
Former House Minority Mia Costello tells me she believes legislation is not needed and existing laws are sufficient. That, as House Speaker Bryce Edgman said last week, legislation on LNG could be one of the topics that may dominate the legislative session. That begins in a little more than a week. I've reached out to Glenn Farn for comment over the specifics on when additional details will be provided for lawmakers. However, their spokesperson did not comment on the report from Gaffney Klein.
All right, Will, thanks so much for your reporting on that. We'll continue to follow that story. And the deadline to apply for individual disaster assistance has been extended for Western Alaska residents impacted by Typhoon Halong.
The state of Alaska and FEMA have agreed on a February 20th cutoff date. That'll be next year. Officials urge residents to register for both state and federal programs. Applications can always be updated at a later time. So far, more than $41 million in disaster aid has been distributed across 43 communities. You can apply online or via phone. And if you are in Bethel, there is an assistance hub set up until this Friday.
The city of Fairbanks just passed its 2026 budget in a 5-to-1 vote. That decision adds a few positions and leaves a surplus of around $840,000.
Last night, the council voted to add a second community paramedic position, also give the Public Works Department 2 new laborers. The positions will be funded out of the department's overtime budget for temporary workers. The only nay vote belonged to a council member who argues the surplus is not enough to absorb unexpected costs.
Our population is not growing, and if we keep growing the government, we're going to get into ourselves where we have a high fixed cost every year.
We are in a revenue deficit, and that's not because we're too big or we're using excess funds. It's because we are providing an excellent service to the community that continues to grow.
The budget goes into effect on January 1st. That official document is expected to be publicly available on January 15th. Ted Stevens International Airport has some big plans in the works headed into next summer. Cargo investments totaling nearly $160 million are expected to come online.
Well, airport leaders tell our Johnson Kuhn those, big investments, they're expected to take shape in some way. Johnson, what are the details on that?
Yeah, that's right, guys. A biannual report outlines 3 projects in particular: a $42 million FedEx domestic sorting facility, a $75 million Alaska cargo and cold storage complex, and a new Northlink aviation cargo operation with Cathay Pacific as an anchor tenant, all slated to open by summer 2026.
And with Ted Stevens Johnson being in the top 4 cargo airports globally, what is attributed to that specifically?
Primarily location. The airport is positioned near polar Great Circle routes, which shortens transit times, in addition to 3 runways, each over 10,000 feet, all of which are ideal for heavy freighters.
All right, Johnson Kuhn reporting. We appreciate you, Johnson. You can catch that full story right now on our website and our mobile app.
Thanks for listening. Click subscribe so you can get the latest podcast from Alaska's news source automatically. And stay up to date with breaking news and in-depth reporting available for free 24/7 with the Alaska's News Source app.